Recording. There we go. Sorry, folks, for the technical difficulties. All right. All right. So, couple minutes after 6, I think we'll get started, and we'll keep adding folks as they arrive. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining today. My name's Melanie Nugent-Noble. I'm the Executive Director for Nocturne Halifax, and thank you wholeheartedly for attending our info session for artists and for your interest in participating in next year's festival. I know that everyone's time is very precious, so I'm gonna jump right in. As you know, we are recording this. We are going to be putting it on our website for folks who are unable to join us today. So if you don't want to be on camera, please feel free to leave it off. However, you feel most comfortable.
I'm in a meeting.
I'd like to acknowledge that geographically, Nocturne takes place within Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. We also acknowledge the significant foundations that
No,
the
it's not mommy.
and culture of Black and African Nova Scotian communities have played in building this province and country. We continue to work to collaborate, amplify, and connect with the many art communities that live and work here in Mi'kma'ki. Our agenda today covers quite a few topics that will help you with your submissions. So we'll be talking a little bit about access support within this info session. We'll do introductions of some of the folks on the Nocturne team who are here today, talk about the festival itself. We'll then hand the floor over to this year's curator, Siobhan John Carmaker, to talk a little bit about the theme. We will also walk through the entire application process and provide a few tips and additional information. We'll also talk about the low sensory call for projects. I'm interested if anyone here has read, or is there anyone specifically here who's here for the low sensory project? Yeah, great. A lot of the information is the same, but there are a few key differences that we'll go through. And then we'll have time for questions. So for now, I'll hand it over to Signe Holm, who is our programming coordinator, who will talk about access support within this session.
Awesome. Yeah, just before we start, just like to go into some housekeeping for the Zoom session here. So some of you might be using the live closed caption setting. The closed captions will be on the recorded version of this, but if you want to have live closed captions, you just have to click on your profile picture. So that's on not this video window, but like your main Zoom window. Go down to settings, accessibility, and then enable closed captions or show closed captions. If you have any trouble with this, just feel free to pop into the chat and message me. And we're happy to answer any questions throughout the session. We ask that you kind of keep your questions in the chat until our Q&A at the end, where we can ask questions live or in the chat. If you have tech issues or you get locked out or anything, our info email is right there as well. And like I said, this is being recorded and it'll be available to everyone after this session.
Yeah, so we'll just do a bit more of a fulsome introduction of the folks here today. I'm Melanie Nugent-Noble. I'm the executive director. I joined Nocturne in 2022. I moved from BC from Kelowna specifically to join the Nocturne team. My first time in Halifax and my first experience with Nocturne was as an artist in 2021. I came and I participated in a project presented by the Eye Level Gallery, and I had an amazing time. I fell in love with Halifax. I fell in love with Nocturne, and it's just such a special festival. I brought my husband back in May for a vacation of May of 2022. And when I was here, it was announced that the previous ED was going to be stepping down, and it felt very serendipitous. And one thing led to the next, and here we are. So I guess this will be my third festival. So the second, bringing the festival to fruition. So I'm happy to be here. Shivanjan.
Thank you, Melanie. Hi, everyone. My name is Shivanjan Kormkar, and I'm the curator for this year at for Nocturne 2024. It's a really big honor to be able to do this. So thank you for everyone attending. A bit about myself. I am a multidisciplinary artist. I dabble in music and videography, photography. I'm also an arts worker, and I've been working in creative arts industry in Nova Scotia for the past 10-15 years. My first Nocturne, I believe, was in 2009. And yeah, it was really nice because I just moved in Halifax, and I was looking for an art scene because I was, making music before that and playing shows and organizing events since I was like 15. And at this point I'm like 21. So when I moved, I was like really hungry for like finding an art scene, and Nocturne was a big hug from all around because like it was art everywhere. And slowly, I kept on coming back to Nocturne. It also coincided with Fringe, which was also another great festival. So yeah, those weekends were always great. And yeah, I'm very happy to be here, to be involved in Nocturne and help facilitate next year's art. Yeah, that's all I have to say for now. I'll give the floor to Signe. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Shivanjan. My name is Signe Holm. I'm the programming coordinator at Nocturne, and I've been here with Nocturne since May 2020, last May. So I've got one festival under my belt, and this will be my second Nocturne. I'm also a student at NASCAD. I'm in the Masters of Art education right now, kind of finishing up my thesis. And I also moved here in 2022 from Alberta. So I'm originally born and raised in Calgary and kind of worked in the art scene there at artist run centers and other galleries. So yeah, and thank you all for being here. I guess we can move on to Melanie, if you want to.
Yeah. Thanks, Signe. What is Nocturne? Nocturne Art at Night is a fall festival that brings energy to the streets of Chibuktuk, Halifax each October. It's a completely free event, so we don't charge admission for anything. And it showcases and celebrates visual art scene in Mi'kma'ki in Nova Scotia. In 2024, Nocturne will take place from October 17th to 20th, and it's curated by Shivanjan. At its core, the festival exhibits temporary artworks in downtown Halifax and Dartmouth. We aim to present critical and relevant art events of a high artistic nature and professional standards. We encourage proposals of all kinds: installation, performance, community engagement, visual, radio, video, and more, as long as it resonates with Nocturne's theme and values. And you can see more about those themes and values on our website or within the call. I don't think we've gone into them in depth within this presentation, but they're all available there. Nocturne. Sorry. That was can you hear me? Okay. I could hear the video playing on the next slide, so apologies, that started a bit earlier. So Nocturne has a few different ways that we do our programming. So we have different types of projects. So our anchor projects are ones that are curated by Siobhan John. So Siobhan John selects artists who he wants to work with, who resonate with the theme. And there's generally about 4 anchor projects taking place at Nocturne. And those, all the projects that we're talking about here generally are for the Saturday night, which is kind of our showcase night of the festival. The one exception is the Low Sensory project, which takes place on the Sunday. Our spotlight projects are also non-juried projects selected by Nocturne organizers to enhance the experience of the festival, are often funded through private sponsorship. So yeah, those can be projects that we work on with last year we did a project with Propeller, and there was a special call. We also work with different arts organizations. So there's a multitude of different ways that spotlight projects come to Nocturne, and they're usually at least a couple years in the making. Beacon projects would be this main call, which many of you are here for tonight. So it includes artist-led work submitted to our annual call for projects. They are selected through a jury, funded by Nocturne. Artists receive CARS-backed artist fees and costs to cover expenses associated with the project. They're usually site-specific and located in public or publicly accessible spaces. Our low sensory project this year, funded through Canada Council's Sector Innovation Program, will take place on the Sunday. It's the only event that will take place on the Sunday. It's sensory-friendly daytime project. Artist-led work submitted to a call for projects where a single project will be selected through a jury process, as well as a secondary presentation process. Those 3, and we will talk about this a bit later. So, but yeah, it is a two-step selection process for this. Funded by Nocturne, and artists receive a CARS-backed artist fee and costs to cover expenses associated with the project. This project is site-specific to the Halifax Public Gardens. The final group is community groups and galleries, and this is self-funded projects submitted to be part of Nocturne. It includes cultural institutions, businesses, and other organizations in our community. So there's such a wide range. So from last year, for instance, the Dalhousie Art Gallery stays open from 6 to midnight to participate in Nocturne, where that's an example of an already established gallery, or the Art Gallery of Nova Scotia, which also stays open. There's the other end of the spectrum. There was a seniors home that put on a play or a production and opened their doors to the public. So it's really open and a great way for the community to get involved. So this next slide is a video. I will for this. All right. So that was actually last year's festival in a nutshell. So makes me a little emotional every time I see it in a very good way. Really proud of the work that all of the artists did last year. And seeing it all come to fruition after months of planning was really great. Um, all right, I'm gonna hand it over again to Shivanjan to talk a little bit more about himself and this year's theme. When you're ready for me to switch to the next slide, just let me know.
Thank you so much, Melanie. Hi everyone. So, yeah, that video was really nice because last year I really enjoyed myself playing a Nocturne. Um, but I'll start by introducing myself and some of the things that I've done. So I've worked with Halifax Jazz Festival, Every Seeker Suddenly Listen, Mayworks Festival, Evolve Festival, and Inspire, and a bunch of other festivals in many different capacities. I've worked as a music director, making producing showcases. With Every Seeker, I worked as or work as programming liaison, or just volunteering to help put up some of the shows, running cables sometimes, meeting artists, talking to people. For Mayworks Festival, I've done similar as working as a music director, showcases and working with emerging artists and also established artists. And my work as a musician or as an artist is to find different avenues to exercise my creativity. And that's one of the things that I really love when I'm working with other collaborators or musicians, filmmakers, videographers, whatever might that be. It's an excuse to be creative and try something new. So last year when we presented in this house, I was working with Camila Apong and DJ Duve, or Brandon Tolliver. We've been working on this project for about a year and a half till the day of fruition. And we collected funding from different various places because it was a project that was very near and dear to our heart. And in this house, for those of you who haven't gotten to read the program, it was showcasing the history of house music. And we found it particularly important for just this time and place because house music is really popular. And knowing what the history and the place where it comes from, the safe spaces, the queer community, the BIPOC population that made house. And yeah, so it was our way of trying to commemorate and bring focus to that. And we did that with a full DJ set, a live house band, and I presented the roots of house music through jazz and funk and soul. Collective. Yeah, we can go on to the next slide, Melanie.
And that was at the Art Bar. If you want to check it out, it was you can see it in our project archives as well.
And we also had a fun to thanks to Every Seeker, we got a fun to record the whole thing, and we will be releasing my portion of the recording in March. So yeah, if you're looking around for some live music, Nocturne and Art Bar and myself, yeah, look out for March. So now we can talk about microcosm and what the theme really means. So the theme of microcosm is a platform for artists to consider and share stories and to create connections around shared love, experiences, tragedies, and/or responsibilities. The theme is intentionally broad, allowing artists the flexibility to tell a personal story from a first person's perspective or from a greater community, or even one that demonstrates the microcosm macrocosm relationship. So ultimately, what I'm trying to do is gather a bunch of local stories that speak to the time that we are in. This is mostly endeavor for me to inspire or instigate some sort of um, look into how we are doing as a community in Nova Scotia, and really helping in bringing some of the stories to life, and informing the art that's coming into Nocturne, inspired by the stories or the material that you can find in Nova Scotia. So it's just my way of urging artists to reflect on our neighbors, on themselves, and how we connect with each other, and how Nova Scotia connects to the rest of the Turtle Island or the rest of the world. It's broad for a reason, so that you can really like tell the story that you want and how you fit in, or your community fits in, or the story that you were trying to say, how that fits in to Chiboktuk and Mi'kma'ki all together. And that's pretty much my humble approach. And yeah, that would be the theme. That's microcosm. And I'm very happy to answer any of the questions. But I'll leave it. Go on to the next slide. Thank you.
All right. And if there are any questions, feel free to put them into the chat. And I'm not seeing any now. All right. So how to apply to Nocturne? So generally people will apply through our website. So go to nocturnehalifax.ca. You'll see both the main call, which is the beacon projects, and the low sensory call. So to be clear, people can apply to both calls if you want. You can only apply once to each call. Click on the call you're applying to, and you'll be brought to a long blog post that itemizes all of the guidelines and helpful information. There's FAQs that provide some additional tips, as well as feedback or tips from past participants as well. It's a good place to start. Read the full guidelines from top to bottom. They can be quite extensive, but it is helpful in terms of thinking about and framing your application. So the full submission is through a Google form. There is actually a spot on the website as well, or on the main page, where you can download a PDF, and it has all the questions as well for you to be able to see ahead of time. But everything is pretty much on one page, so you don't need to finish one before going to the next. You can see everything. We recommend working in sections offline first. If you need any support, we are absolutely able to provide application support. We also accept proposals via phone, video, or other audio file as needed by the applicant. Just let us know. In those instances, we would still need to see support material as well. You may submit your application in English or in French. Sections 1 and 2, about you. The first two sections are about you and your collaborators. This is mainly about contact details, but it also gives the selection committee a look at to who you are as an artist or a collective. So this is where you would add your website, social media handles, your artist bio and statement, as well as, information about how we would get a hold of you to let you know that your submission was successful. Section 2 is really kind of the meat and potatoes of the submission, so to say. It's the selection section where you can get into the nitty-gritty about your project, and it really provides the selection committee a strong idea and really paints the picture of what you have planned for your project. Key selection sections here include the project description and your thematic connection, but each section gives the selection committee a better idea of what you might have planned for the festival. You don't have to have a venue in order to submit, but it doesn't have one, hurt to have one in mind or have already secured one. One of the things that would really helps, identify a strong submission is, and helps the jury visualize your project, is if you have an idea of the venue, or you can provide as many details around what the ideal venue would be. There's a couple projects from last year. One was Brandon Augers, who did a sound piece, and it was in a tower that's under construction right down by the waterfront. And this is a specific venue he had in mind ahead of time and arranged for that with the festival, or sorry, before the festival application deadline. So he knew that this project needed to happen in that venue. And because of that, he made the arrangements and had those approvals ready to go with his proposal. So if there is a venue that it's like, it has to be this venue, it is integral to the project, we recommend most people should have those connections and partnerships in place already. It would be a good idea to include confirmation of that. Another example I'd like to pull out just with venue is Jesse Fraser's project, Till the Tide, which is at the Queen's Marquee. That was a project that didn't necessarily have the venue confirmed, but said this would be the ideal venue. And we were able to, as the project was selected, we were able to say, okay, we can make this project work in this space. And so if you do have an ideal venue, let us know as well, even if you haven't secured it. Like, that really helps us as well envision what the project looks like. Likewise, most projects don't have specific site-specific locations attached to them. They might say, like, I need a park with a densely wooded area and a tree that I can hang balloons from, or you know what I mean? Like, as specific as you can be, the better. That helps us visualize your project. So a venue is not something to be overlooked. The more description, the better. Generally spend time here making sure you're being as clear as possible. Have someone read your project description, ideally someone who doesn't know your work, because the jury oftentimes doesn't know your work. Review your technical descriptions next to your budget. So yeah, and then I can't see. And yeah, make sure that you are connecting it in some way to the theme. In terms of support material is a very important piece of the project. There is a support material image list that you can download or make a copy of. It is originally in a Google Doc, similarly to the budget template. Fill out instructions around filling out the template. Both of them. Name your files accordingly, and then upload the files. Don't forget to also upload your resume or artist CV as well. Tips here would be use your support material strategically. Include past projects that are similar or show record that you have completed work similar to what you're proposing. If you have nothing, maybe submit a sketch of what you're proposing, or even a mood board. Use the provided templates for your budget and image list. Section 4, artist equity. So these last few questions are optional, but your responses help us learn about the diversity of folks submitting for projects and artists applying to participate in the programming. Please take into consideration all members of your collective when answering these questions. Okay. For budget tips, so you would download or make a copy of the template to work from. Everything that you put in your application should make its way into the budget. So one kind of exception is for the low sensory project, or accessibility related expenses. Nocturne is making efforts to support accessibility as much as possible. So yeah, if you're not able to fit all accessibility things in there, don't worry about it. We're working through other projects to do accessibility audits for different projects and venues this year. And more information will be provided to successful artists at a later date. A good thing is to imagine if you were going to do this project next week or sometime that helps shorten the timeline. What would you need to do to make this happen? Don't shortchange yourself on the artist fee is another thing. And having additional funding is optional, but if you have it, you should let us know. That's great. A lot of folks already have funding for projects that come from Arts Nova Scotia or Canada Council or other funding sources. We really want to see your total expenses and revenues balancing as well. We do want artists to, you'll see in the form that there's, or in the template, that the amount for the artist fees already has a value in there. And that is $550. That is the lowest artist fee that we would pay, the minimum mandatory minimum. But that being said, if you have multiple people, or you feel that there's a different artist fee, Carfax fee schedule that fits better for your project, put it in there. You know, we recognize that there's such a diverse range of types of projects that like one fee does not fit all. So we really just put in the minimum one that would be for one artist doing a work in public. But yeah, feel free to adjust up based on the number of people and the type of project you're doing. Everything else on here is fairly self-explanatory. There's lots of room for other costs. You're welcome in the notes to take out where it has all the list of optional things. Put in your own details of that let us know what the budget item is for, or if you need to have any additional explanation. Travel, use the Canada Council for the Arts tool to help figure out what your travel budget would be if you're planning on doing so. Professional services could be like something like contractors. A lot of artists require additional hands on deck, potentially, especially if it's a community engagement piece, or if there's other support or things built. All of those things should be included. Artist cares, for instance, anything else that an artist might need in terms of supporting the work that they're doing. This could be things like childcare to participate in the festival. It could be any multitude of things. So if you think you might need it, put it in there. This is the scoring criteria that the jury will be looking at. So you get a sense of how the project will be weighted. So looking at artistic merit is worth 20%. We'll be looking, is the project is resolved and grounded in artistic and social discourse. It is exploratory, challenging, and is it critical in nature? We want to know more about its impact. For instance, does it have a cultural, educational, social, visual, or community impact? Does the artist or collective demonstrate experience or planning to execute the project successfully? So is it feasible? Does the artist have the experience to complete the project as described? That's where a lot of support material might come in, demonstrating that you've done something similar before, or that you've done planning or projects of similar scope and size. The project aligns to Nocturne's core values and the 2024 theme. The project is independent and non-commercial, so it's free. So if you put something in there like, we need to charge tickets, we would not select the project. The project is produced by artists, creatives, art workers, and or makers. It's important for us to be supporting makers rather than, an artist getting something fabricated else. I don't know, we want to make sure it's supporting folks in the creative economy. Does the project respond to and align with the theme of microcosm? And does the project align with the themes and goals of the festival? So the festival schedule and architecture. Does the project have relevance to place and community? What makes this work relevant here and now? Is the artist local, or do they address themes of local topics? Does the artist represent a traditionally excluded community? I just want to say there as well, don't be discouraged in applying if you are not from Halifax or the Maritimes. We have a lot of artists that participate every year from across Canada and even internationally. Budget. Is there evidence that the artist can execute this project successfully within the proposed budget? And are there any flags? So for instance, any items too high or too low? So yeah, just to reiterate, Nocturne is a paid opportunity for artists. The minimum artist fee is $5.50 for the main call, or the beacon call, but this may be adjusted based on the type of project and the number of artists, collaborators, so on and so forth. If you're not sure, always reach out to us. We're happy to help with any kind of questions. I know budgets can be tricky. But we also really encourage applicants to refer to the 2024 Carfax fee schedule. We know that, it's a fairly dry document, but it's good to kind of get to know it. And for emerging artists or new artists who are here today who might not know about the Carfax fee schedule, it sets the kind of the minimum fees that artists should be paid for different exhibitions, artist talks, doing workshops, so far and so forth. And we pay according to this fee. So I also just want to note $5.50 is the minimum for this project, but not the low sensory project. And there's also some money put aside for accessibility costs. So consider those as well. All right, once you put everything together, your contact information, artist information, project information, all of your attachments, how you've had someone read over your whole application, click submit, and set the timer. And we hope to have everyone contacted in June, so beginning of June. Now I'll hand it over to Signe to talk more about the low sensory project.
Thanks, Melanie. Yeah, so as we mentioned, the low sensory project is the second project that is juried. So on top of the beacon projects, we are selecting one singular project for a low sensory daytime Sunday project. I just sent the link in the chat as well to the low sensory call if you want to take a look at that. So this is taking place on Sunday, October 20th during daytime hours. So you might think, why would we want to have a daytime event for a nighttime arts festival? Well, we do recognize that the majority of our festival programming is often not sensory friendly. It involves a lot of lights, loud noises, crowds, and this is not something that everyone is comfortable with or can handle for a myriad of reasons. Yeah, so we kind of started looking at that a few years ago. We've had a few different Sunday projects like this, but this is the first year we're actually fully delving into low sensory training and dedicating this project to that. So it's designed to provide low or sensory friendly programming as part of our festival for all to enjoy. Nocturne encourages applicants to consider the multitude of sensory differences and sensitivities that individuals may experience. So again, this includes sensitivities to sound, bright lights, crowded spaces. There's a number of other things that you could look into as well. Proposals should consider a variety of these elements within their proposal. You can go to the next slide. So how to apply to the low sensory project. It's very similar to the Beacon project. So if you look at the homepage of our website, it's right underneath the main Beacon call for submissions. Someone did ask in the chat if you have to submit 2 applications if you want to apply for both for the same kind of project. And the answer is yes. There are a few key differences in the application forms, but generally the forms do look the same. It's also a Google form. So the differences include, obviously, we're looking for considerations for low sensory elements as something that's integrated into your project proposal. It is a site-specific project, so the venue has already been selected, and we are partnering with the Halifax Public Gardens for this project, which I'll talk about in the next slide. And the budget also looks different. So I can also pop that in the chat. I'm gonna do that right now if anyone wants to take a look. So yeah, you will notice, I'll talk about the budget as well, but there is kind of a set maximum amount for this project, and some more slight differences. The other difference is that this project has a 2-step selection process, which means that basically after we get all of our submissions, we choose up to 3 artists to shortlist and present their ideas to the selection committee. So these will be kind of more formal presentations where you'll present your concept in more detail and get to have a one-on-one conversation with some of the committee members. And regardless of whether or not you do go on to the next step, those 3 artists will receive a $500 honorarium. And following these presentations, the selection committee will choose 1 successful submission.
Next slide.
Yeah, next slide, please. Okay, and if you live in Halifax or been to Halifax, you probably heard of the public gardens or are familiar with it. So they are part of like the HRM public parks system. So they're made up of an entire block of the downtown core. It's a square, as you can see, bordered by Spring Garden Road, Summer Street, South Park Street, and Sackville Street. The gardens were founded by the Nova Scotia Horticultural Society in 1836 and recognized as a National Historic Site in 1984. It's also part of Canada's Garden Route. This project will take place specifically on the family lawn area. So I've circled it vaguely there. It is in the southeast corner. So it's Spring Garden Road and Summer Street there. So this is actually the only space where people are allowed to technically walk on the grass or sit on the grass. This is where you'll see people like having picnics. They host other events in the gardens on the public lawn or the family lawn. So that is what we're kind of restricted to, but it is a large space. And yeah, so visitors visitors are able to walk on the grass in this area only. The project must not extend beyond this area. You can't block any public pathways or prevent the public from visiting the rest of the gardens, because we will be open. We will have this project on a Sunday, which is a day that it's a popular time to come to the gardens. Yeah. And you can go to the next slide there. So the budget, again, very similar to the main call budget, with some key differences. So because this is kind of a larger standalone project, and a project that we have a significant amount of funding for from the government, from Canada Heritage Grant, I believe.
Oh, Canada Council.
Canada Council. We have an artist fee of $2,500. So this is, if it's one individual artist, this is the minimum artist fee that you would get. Again, if there is a collective or like an artist duo, the fee would be it would be modified. So that would be something you would talk about if you're applying and explain in your budget. And the total project budget has $8,500 maximum to be allocated to the project, which includes the artist fee. Again, there's accessibility related expenses that can be added on separately or kind of talked about with Nocturne, because we do have resources to cover a lot of accessibility related expenses. So things like ASL interpreters, for example, among many other things. Yeah. And again, budgets can be confusing, as Melanie mentioned. It's not everyone's strong suit. I know it's not mine. So if you ever have any questions while you're working on this, feel free to reach out to us. And move on to the next slide. I think that's kind of, yeah. And we just have some contact information if anyone wants to take a screenshot here. There's our info email there, but there's also my email and Melanie's email. And we also have Morgan Beth, who is not present at the session today, but they are the Director of Artist Care and Support on our board of directors. And yeah, we're more than happy to hear from you.
Great.
And yeah, if there's nothing else to add, Melanie and Shivanjan, we can open it up to questions. And I think if you just have a question, feel free to raise your hand, or just use the chat again. And it looks like we do have a question in the chat already from a few minutes ago.
Yeah, so question is, are artists able to reuse or sell the things or reproductions of things that they make for their project after Nocturne is over or rights given up through that participation? So the artist maintains the right to their works. A lot of artists use Nocturne as a launch point for them, and we love to see your work grow and move on to other lives outside of Nocturne. So the work is yours. We don't claim any ownership over it after it's been created. Any other questions that folks might have? Can projects be already completed? Yes. So they don't necessarily need to be new works. They often would need to be maybe retrofitted for whatever specific space it's going to be in, or like a new iteration. So I know when I participated in Nocturne, it was a work that I had shown in other communities in Canada, and bringing it here, being in a different space, in a different community, making it a different activation in a way makes it a different work. So, yeah, so works can already be completed. For low sensory, can the gazebo be enclosed? I have seen it enclosed in the past, but I don't know if that's the case for this. And if, is the gazebo part of the family gardens area? I believe it is. Signe, do you
I
know?
believe it is. In terms of how you can kind of modify it, I'm not 100% sure.
So,
So that's
yeah,
follow up.
we can follow up. And if you send us one of us a quick email note, we will respond to you by email with that question as well. I'm gonna take a question. Sasha, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I was looking online. I was trying to see, is there a place to look at the past sensory projects?
Yeah, so last year's wasn't technically a low sensory one, but it was Corey Peters, Collective Joy, Collective Grief. And Corey Peters is a Victoria-based artist. And it included taking a series of kind of knitted crocheted blankets that were so the community came together and they were simultaneously being unraveled and turned into pom-poms at the same time. So there was a tactility component, a community component. It was hosted at Dartmouth Commons. And then in 2022, it was Aslan Thomas's Quiet Parade, which is exactly what it sounds like. It was a quiet parade that took place at Fort Needham Park. And B. Mosher is here. Maybe you can provide a bit more insight into that project as a participant in it. Sorry to put you on the.
Yeah. So yeah, Quiet Parade was exactly what she said, is a quiet parade, and Aslan Thomas really did like create this space for all these artists and performers and organizations to really take on the idea of a parade and make it into something that's so joyful and also welcoming and very thoughtful. And you had like a little jazz group playing really, really quiet jazz music. You had some large soft sculpture walking down the park. And I was part of a fashion show by a local fashion designer. And yeah, I was just sending along some of the pages for those projects.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
I wanted to go back to a question around the Carfax document being long and confusing. It totally is. I 100% agree. So yeah, in the budget there is in the notes just a couple that are often used by by Nocturne artists when they're submitting. Especially for emerging artists, I do encourage you to become familiar with this document as a working and professional artist. It will really help you to make sure you're able to talk about money within your practice and know about, like, if someone wants you to do a workshop or an artist talk, what should you be paid? So even though there are a few sections in here, take the time and go through it. We want artists to be familiar with the fee schedule, and it's a core document for professional artists.
Melanie, there is a question just from Alex. I was wondering if you could help us answer that one.
Yeah, I'm just looking. Sorry, if we're looking for guidance on getting pre-approvals from the city for certain public location. So, if there's a city location that you're interested in, just put that in your proposal. Nocturne is the best person to get those approvals, but we won't do that until after your project is successful. So if you don't already have like sometimes people have been working on a concept for a few years and have been working with a partner location because it's site specific. That is a rare thing. Most times people have an ideal location, and if you don't have those connections yet, don't worry about it. If your project is successful, we will reach out to the city on your behalf. The same thing, there's often venues like the library or the Maritime Museum or some little bookshop or a street corner that folks are interested in. Provide those details of what those spaces are that you want, and we will do our best to ensure that we get them for you. Or if not, something that's really similar. I know that the city and a few other places often will get a lot of inquiries of people starting to apply for their applications for Nocturne. And they aren't able to confirm anything with you or for you until your submission has been approved. So it's kind of putting the cart before the horse. So yeah, work on the submission. Don't take time chasing or confirming venues at all. Tell us your ideal and we'll do that lifting for you.
Yeah, and that's a great question. So you had said that applicants need to show that they can complete this kind of project. If I don't have any way of showing that I've done anything like this, would I lose points for this criteria? So I think a big thing to emphasize is that for the Beacon projects, we have had a lot of artists who had never done like public art before or festival art before, and we really want to support you in getting that experience. So it's not a situation where you need this exact experience to meet the criteria, but we just want to show us that like the experience you do have can give you the tools to make this project happen and just make sure it's realistic.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
I think in that instance, when you look about, if you haven't done anything specific to that, you would want to provide those artworks that you've done that you could include with your CV and stuff, even though if it hasn't been for professional reasons, but demonstrate, ways that you can demonstrate you are able to complete it. So we want to show that it's feasible, the project is feasible. And a lot of that comes through the planning as well. So the more details that you can provide around costs, around timeline, the better.
Yeah, and I think mock-ups are a great tool if you have a knack for making digital design work, or it can even be something simple. Yeah, I know that's a good tool for people who the work is in their head but not created yet. They don't have the funds to make it yet. So that's another way to help us visualize it.
What
if the work is not already created and requires a significant amount of time and labor to be created, can you include an hourly wage for yourself to produce the work, separate from the artist fee in your budget?
Well, that is kind of like the artist fee. So I would increase the artist fee.
Yeah, and that is something that
Yeah.
artists have in the past too.
Yeah. And that's part of it. Like, yeah, the artist fee is a minimum. And so, yeah, if most of the work is labor, you want to make sure you're compensated for that labor. There was a question just above that. What percentage of applications are successful? How many applications versus events artists do you have? So in the Beacon submission, the main call, it's hard to say every year is different. It depends on the amount of funding that we have. We don't have like a cap on the number of submit. We don't say, oh, it has to be 15 projects or 20 projects, and we don't say that projects have a maximum price either. So because projects are so different. So last year, where in 2022, we had 20 projects. In 2023, we had 10 projects. But we paid more for artist fees and project costs. So it really depends. It's hard to say. Last year, we had, I think, 110 submissions and 10 were selected. So it is competitive, but that doesn't mean don't apply. You never know what the jury is looking for. A lot of artists, if you read the in the FAQs, the responses from or some of the feedback from other artists, they're just like, put yourself out there, dream big. Yeah, so it's a time to really vision and imagine what you can do and be bold. Are there any other questions or thoughts or anything else that folks want to share? No? Well, that was a really great discussion. I really appreciated everyone's questions and everyone's time today. Thank you so much for coming out. I hope that you found this informative. If you do have any other questions, let me just go back to this screen here. You have all of our contact information. We will also be emailing out to everyone who registered a copy of this presentation, so you will have it to look at. I think we'll take the video screen out because that will make the presentation too big to share. But besides that, you'll have everything else. Yeah, and then you can contact any of us if you have any other questions whatsoever. Thanks again, everyone. And
So
thank
much,
you,
everyone.
Rhonda and Signy and B for letting me put you on the spot.
Have a good night, everybody.
Good night. See you.
Bye.
Hello.
Stop recording. Oh God.